Correct?
All right. Now, the second page of this also talks about the preferred target zones, correct? You can scroll down to the next page.
Yes.
And you recognize this as a slide from a Taser PowerPoint.
Yes.
And so the green areas on the front are the preferred areas, correct?
Correct.
And the next page and on the back, the indication is to reduce cardiac risks, problems with the heart. Should target the back area, correct?
Yes.
And when you deploy a taser, is there something that you want with regard to how far apart the probes are?
Yeah, the optimal spread between the two probes would be 12 inches.
And if you don't get that kind of spread, what happens?
If you're too close, you can end up with nothing more than what we call pain compliance. It does not induce neuromuscular incapacitation. If you get further than that, you still have a really good likelihood of getting neuromuscular incapacitation, but the chances of you getting both probes on somebody diminishes.
And I'm going to offer at this time, Your Honor, 374.
An objection to 374.
Objection.
374 will be admitted.
And this is what I was referring to earlier. This is part of training as well, and reflecting that warning that we talked about earlier, to not deploy a taser on somebody who is operating vehicle or machinery. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right, now I said I was going to ask you to show us your taser, and what I would like to do, Sergeant Peterson, if you would, and I'm going to offer Exhibit 370 and 371.
Any objections to 370 and 371? Those exhibits will be admitted into evidence.
And I would ask you to, put up 370, please. And do you recognize this as the basic Taser 7,
Yes.
similar to the one you have today?
Yes.
And does this have a trigger?
Yes.
Does it have a safety switch
Yes.
and a front sight?
Yes.
And if we go to 371, this is a close-up of the safety switch, correct?
Correct.
Can you describe for the jurors, how this safety switch works?
The safety is linked from the left side to the right side, so you cannot move it independently from side to side. When it is down, it is in a safe, unarmed position. When you push it up, it is now in an armed position, and it activates many internal logging features to happen.
So when you move the safety switch up, does it essentially turn on the taser?
Yes.
And what changes are visible in the taser then once the safety switch is moved up?
In our department, we have the lasers and the flashlight or illumination turned on.
And when you say lasers, how many lasers come out of it?
On a Taser 7-2.
And what is the purpose of those lasers?
To give the user a general idea of where the top probe and the bottom probe are going to go.
And the flashlight probably speaks for itself, right? Is that yes?
Yes.
And so when you do that, when you arm it, and is there also a screen in the back of the taser that provides some information?
Yes.
and that is visible to the person holding the taser.
It is.
It provides information about the operation of the taser.
The status of it.
Okay, status, good. Did previous models of the taser that your department used have a safety switch?
Yes.
Do you recall how far back the tasers were that had safety switches that you used?
Everything from the X26 and the X26P, which are the ones that I was trained in and how to use since 2005.
If we can go back to 370, please. I started out a while ago talking to you about the spark function test, is that right?
A function test, yes.
And policy requiring that that be done every shift.
Should be done, yes.
And is the button that you use for that depicted here on Exhibit 370,
Yes.
labeled arc switch?
Yes.
All right. You can probably take that down. What I would like to have you do, Sergeant Peterson, and if you want to stand up and show the jury, walk us through the process of how a spark function test, would be done at the beginning of a shift for an officer with the Taser 7. And then I'm going to ask you to operate the spark function test. Now, can that be done safely here in the courtroom?
Yes.
And so if you could, like I said, just walk us through the process and show the jury how that's done.
Okay. It's going to depend on the day. If I'm just coming on to shift, I may have to get some equipment out of our armory and then assign it to myself. Once I have done that, I may holster it, or I may just go right into my spark test. So I carry my taser on my left side. I'm going to draw it. As I draw it, I'm going to press both arc switches, one on the left side, one on the right side at the same time. It now eliminates my CID, tells me that I'm in a function test mode. I can then turn on my taser. My CID has changed colors. I know that it's now in a function test mode, and now I simply press my arc switch again. It runs through a 5-second spark test. While it's doing that on the CID, it's counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the duration of a cycle that we want somebody to end at. I check the status of it again, I disarm it, and I holster it.
Thank you.